Welcome, everyone, to this extensive exploration of one of the crown jewels of Kashmir Shaivism, the Spanda Karika. In this journey, we will dive deep into the mystical realm of the Spanda doctrine, a philosophical and experiential framework that centers on the vibratory nature of ultimate reality. This text occupies a cherished place within the non-dual Shaiva traditions that flourished in Kashmir from around the 8th to 12th centuries CE. At first glance, Spanda Karika may appear to be a concise treatise, often consisting of just 52 stanzas, depending on the manuscript. Yet, it holds a powerful set of teachings, from subtle metaphysics to practical contemplative methods, guiding seekers toward direct realization of their inherent divinity. The Sanskrit term spanda literally translates as vibration or pulsation, and it underscores the notion that reality, in its dynamic aspect, is never static but continuously throbs with the energy of consciousness. Although the text itself is terse and sometimes cryptic, various commentators like Ksemaraja have expanded its ideas into elaborate systems of philosophy. While the Shiva Sutras and the Pratyabhijna texts, such as the Shvara Pratyabhijna Karika by Utpaladeva, articulate the more formal philosophical structure of Kashmir Shaivism, the Spanda Karika focuses on the vibratory essence that underlies all manifestation and reabsorption within pure consciousness. Our presentation is both scholarly and narrative. We will interweave historical context, philosophical frameworks, and close textual analysis in a way that elucidates the meaning of the stanzas while bringing out the living import of the teaching. Far from being relegated to the past, Spanda Karika remains a source of inspiration for modern spiritual seekers who want to understand consciousness and the world's ceaseless movement from a non-dual perspective. Why invest the time and effort in exploring this text in such detail? First, the Spanda Karika is recognized for its universal resonance. It addresses perennial questions about the nature of self, the nature of reality, the paradox of embodiment, and the path to liberation, moksha. Second, it expresses key themes of Tantra, particularly the sovereignty of Shiva as both the transcendent and immanent principle, pure consciousness and its creative vibration, and the profound recognition, pratyabhijna, that the individual is never truly apart from the universal. Third, unlike some philosophical texts that can feel abstract or forbiddingly theoretical, the Spanda Karika offers direct instructions and contemplative approaches that bridge theory and practice, pointing to an immediate awareness of one's divine essence. For contemporary audiences, whether academically inclined or spiritually oriented, this text serves as a gateway to the sophisticated world of non-dual Tantra. Its message can be examined through the lens of comparative religion, consciousness studies, or personal introspection. These days, mindfulness and meditative practices proliferate globally, and the idea of a cosmic pulse or vibration suffusing all existence resonates with many. A growing body of interdisciplinary research into neuroscience, quantum physics, and contemplative traditions also highlights the interconnected nature of reality, which the Spanda Karika poetically proclaims. In sum, the text stands at the threshold where ancient tradition and modern inquiry converge. What follows will map the historical environment that gave rise to Kashmir Shaivism, define the distinctive features of its theology, parse the text structure, examine key verses, and reflect on how these teachings might be relevant today. Through this systematic approach, we will discover the deeper meaning of Spanda, or the throb of consciousness, and how it might apply to our own lives and spiritual paths. Historical and cultural context of Kashmir Shaivism. To fully appreciate Spanda Karika, it helps to situate it in the vibrant cultural and intellectual milieu of medieval Kashmir. Between the 8th and 12th centuries CE, the Kashmir Valley became a renowned center of Sanskritic learning, philosophical discourse, and tantric spiritual practice. It attracted scholars, mystics, and patrons from all over the Indian subcontinent, resulting in a distinctive environment where ideas from various Shaiva, Buddhist, and Vaishnava traditions coexisted and cross-pollinated. Kashmir's religious scene at the time was remarkably diverse. Alongside the more established Shaiva Siddhanta schools, which tended toward dualistic or dual cum non-dualistic orientations, newer systems arose that placed a stronger emphasis on non-dual interpretations of Shiva's sovereignty. Various tantric lineages, such as the Kaula tradition and the Trika system, flourished. Buddhism, especially in the form of Vajrayana, also had a strong presence, contributing to the philosophical and ritual ferment of the era. In this environment, the lines between religious practice and intellectual inquiry were fluid. Tantric traditions often fused esoteric rites with sophisticated metaphysical reflection. Philosophers like Abhinavagupta, c. 950–1016 CE, and his disciple Ksemaraja, plus early 11th century CE, composed numerous treatises that integrated aesthetics, linguistics, ritual studies, and ontology into what is now referred to as Kashmir Shaivism. Kashmir Shaivism is not a monolithic entity, but comprises several currents. Three primary ones are often highlighted: Pratyabhijna, Krama, and Kaula. Pratyabhijna centers on the recognition, Pratyabhijna, that the individual consciousness and the absolute consciousness of Shiva are one. The Krama lineage focuses on the sequential unfolding of cosmic powers, Kala, that culminates in the recognition of undifferentiated consciousness. Kaula traditions emphasize the body, Kundalini energy, and the union of Shiva and Shakti in the embodied individual. Spanda Karika belongs most directly to the Trika framework, closely allied with Pratyabhijna, that focuses on Shiva, Shakti, and the individual soul as a triadic unity, understood through the lens of the Spanda or vibration principle. The exact origin of the Spanda Karika is somewhat debated. According to tradition, the teachings on Spanda originate with Sri Vasugupta, c. 8th or 9th century CE, the same sage credited with receiving the Shiva Sutras. However, the text is commonly attributed to Bhatta Kalata, a disciple of Vasugupta, who might have systematically elaborated the cryptic teachings found in the Shiva Sutras. Regardless of the precise author, the text testifies to a period of creative ferment in which these tantric revelations were actively discussed and recorded. The region's intellectual tradition thrived on royal patronage and monastic networks. Scholars not only composed commentaries on established sacred texts, but also engaged in lively debates with Buddhist logicians, for instance in the Dharmakati tradition and other Hindu traditions like Advaita Vedānta. In this fertile setting, Spanda Karika sets forth a quintessentially tantric approach, direct, experiential, and grounded in the insight that spiritual illumination entails awakening the innate power of consciousness. As historical circumstances changed due to invasions, political upheaval, and shifts in patronage, many Shaiva texts were lost or dispersed. It was not until the late 19th and early 20th centuries that scholars and adepts like John Woodruff, Arthur Avalon, and Swami Lakshman Jew helped revive and reintroduce these profound works to the wider world. Today, the teachings and practices of Kashmir Shaivism are once again studied and practiced globally, making Spanda Karika an enduring beacon of non-dual wisdom, the concept of Spanda in Indian philosophy. To understand the core message of the Spanda Karika, we need a clear sense of what Spanda means in Indian philosophy. The Sanskrit root spand implies movement, trembling, or throbbing. In everyday contexts, it can simply mean quiver or vibrate. However, in the esoteric theology of Kashmir Shaivism, it takes on a profound significance. Spanda becomes the creative dynamism of consciousness, the subtle stirring by which Shiva, the Absolute, reveals himself as the multiplicity of the universe. In the non-dual Shaiva view, Shiva is pure awareness without attributes, yet never truly devoid of power, Shakti. Spanda is the transition or oscillation between Shiva in his unmanifest transcendental aspect and his manifest immanent aspect as Shakti. It is not a physical vibration, but a living interior pulse of consciousness as it becomes aware of itself, wills, and creates. Spanda is sometimes compared, albeit loosely, to the fluctuating gunas of Prakriti and Sankhya, or the principle of cosmic creation in Vedanta. But Kashmir Shaivism is distinguished by its insistence that the world is not an illusory appearance to be cast aside. Rather, it is the real, vibrant expression of the divine. While Advaita Vedānta often describes Brahman as changeless and sees the manifest world as Maya, illusion, Kashmir Shaivism insists on the paradox that the Supreme is both absolutely still and eternally in pulsation. Perhaps most importantly, Spanda is not merely a grand universal principle. According to these teachings, an adept can directly experience its subtle throb within their own awareness. Traditional instructions advise observing the gap between breaths or the moment a thought arises and dissolves. In such junctures, one may sense a subtle trembling of consciousness, revealing Spanda as the unity of stillness and movement, authorship, commentary, traditions, and transmission. Tradition credits Bhatta Kalata, a direct disciple of Vasugupta, with composing the Spanda Karika. Some hold that Vasugupta himself might have authored an early version, while others see Kalata as the more systematic recorder of an oral tradition. Regardless, the text and its teachings clearly emerged from the same lineage that produced the Shiva Sutras. Over the centuries, numerous commentaries, vortis, have expanded on the Karika's cryptic verses. Among the most important is Ksemaraja's Spanda Nirnaya, sometimes referred to as Spanda Pradpika, which elucidates Spanda in light of broader non-dual Shaiva theology. Ksemaraja, a principal disciple of the great polymath Abhinavagupta, integrated references from other Shaiva scriptures and explained each stanza in detail, ensuring the text's ongoing relevance for practitioners and scholars alike. In Kashmir's tantric milieu, teachings were typically passed on orally from guru to disciple alongside the text-based study. This dual transmission balanced the cryptic nature of the scriptures with first-hand experiential guidance. Over time, scribes copied manuscripts, leading to slight variations in the text. Modern translations by scholars such as Jaideva Singh and Mark Dyczkowski have brought these teachings to a global readership, while advanced practitioners still emphasize direct experience over mere intellectual understanding. Structure and organization of the Spanda Karika. Although the text is relatively short, it is traditionally divided into sections, often 3 or 4, depending on the commentator, that focus on different aspects of the Spanda principle. One common division includes a foundational section that lays out the principle of vibratory consciousness. A section highlighting how Spanda permeates the heart of Shiva and all creation. A practical section on how to realize Spanda through meditative or contemplative approaches. Some manuscripts append a concluding portion extolling the fruit, phala, of such realization. While commentators differ on precise verse numbering or subdivisions, the essence remains. Spanda is the subtle pulse of awareness accessible at any time, and the key to understanding how the absolute reality engages in the dance of manifestation. Each karika, verse, within the text operates as a condensed statement of mystical insight. Commentary traditions, especially Ksemaraja's, elaborate these insights, linking them to scriptural sources, philosophical arguments, and practical instructions. In this way, Spanda Karika becomes both a metaphysical treatise and a guide to direct spiritual experience. Detailed exposition of key verses. Because Spanda Karika is brief, we can explore its themes in a slightly thematic manner, drawing on representative verses. Different editions may have slightly different numbering schemes, but the core teachings remain consistent. One of the opening themes is that reality is not mere static being. It is a living, self-aware consciousness that moves or throbs. The analogy is sometimes made to waves on the surface of a still ocean. Though the ocean's depths remain unmoving, the surface displays countless forms of pulsation. Similarly, Shiva's absolute stillness coexists with a ceaseless dance of manifestation. The text emphasizes that Spanda can be recognized in our own mental processes. Just as a person can track the subtle fluctuations of their own mind, so too can they discern the cosmic vibration animating the universe. This recognition is not an abstract idea, but a direct, almost tactile awareness that all phenomena, thoughts, emotions, objects, arise from and subside back into the same vibratory source. Another theme is the idea that Shiva's heart, Advaita, is the essential core of all existence. Hridaya is not a physical organ, but the deepest center of consciousness. Spanda, though subtle and easily overlooked, is precisely the beat of this universal heart. The text urges practitioners to attune themselves to the intervals or gaps in which Spanda can be perceived, such as the pause between two breaths or the space before a thought fully crystallizes. By resting awareness in these intervals, one may sense the throb of pure consciousness. The latter part of Spanda Karika lays out various contemplative methods. Breath-centered meditations figure prominently, given the breath's intimate connection with life force and subtle energy. Mantra recitation is also cited, with the vibrational quality of sacred syllables helping to recalibrate the mind to cosmic resonance. Rather than rejecting thoughts or emotions, practitioners are encouraged to observe their arising and subsiding, thus perceiving Spanda in every fluctuation. Ultimately, the text promises that realization of Spanda leads to a state of effortless, natural awareness, sahaja. The adept remains continually aware that every activity, be it physical movement, mental thought, or emotional feeling, is an expression of the one universal vibration. This transforms mundane life into a sacred dance in which the perceiver, the perceived, and the act of perception converge in non-dual unity. Relation to broader Kashmir Shaivism literature. Spanda Karika is sometimes seen as a companion to the Shiva Sutras, which are also attributed to Vasugupta. The Shiva Sutras lay down aphorisms on the nature of consciousness and methods of realization. Spanda Karika, in a sense, takes one of these methods, focusing on the pulsatory dimension of consciousness, and elaborates it into a standalone treatise. It also fits naturally with the Pratyabhijna school, represented by Utpaladeva and later by Abhinavagupta. While Pratyabhijna focuses on recognizing, Pratyabhijna, that one's consciousness is none other than Shiva, Spanda Karika gives a more energetic or dynamic viewpoint of the same truth. The two streams are complementary. Abhinavagupta's own works, such as the Tantraloka, incorporate Spanda insights, weaving them into a grand tapestry of ritual, philosophy, and aesthetic theory. Philosophical synthesis and key insights. Spanda Karika offers several important philosophical insights. It stands firmly within the non-dual framework. There is only one reality, Shiva, Shakti, manifesting in infinite ways. This reality, though seemingly static as pure being, also includes within itself a dynamic capacity to vibrate, create, and experience. Consciousness is reflexive, meaning it is self-luminous and inherently aware of itself. The same consciousness that appears as manifold forms also perceives those forms, never losing its own unity. Unlike traditions that downplay the phenomenal world as illusion, Spanda Karika sees the world as the real, vibrant expression of Shiva's energy. The key problem is our egoic misidentification with the part rather than the whole. Recognizing Spanda is thus the antidote, dissolving the illusion of separation. At a practical level, Spanda Karika insists that realization can be immediate. One need not embark on a lifetime of ascetic struggles. by paying close attention to the vibratory moments that underlie every breath, thought, and perception. One can shift into the recognition that everything is an unbroken flow of consciousness. Practical implications for meditation and spiritual practice. Because Spanda is accessible through direct experience, the text offers concrete guidance. Observing the breath is one of the simplest methods, particularly the pause or gap between inhalation and exhalation. In that gap, movement transitions into stillness, and stillness readies itself for movement again. This microcosm of Spanda can become a powerful anchor for daily meditation. Mantra is another doorway. By reciting or internally chanting a sacred syllable, the practitioner tunes their own psychic vibration to the cosmic frequency. Over time, the distinction between I, who chants, and the mantra, that is chanted, dissolves into a unified current of awareness. Other methods might involve focusing on subtle sensations in the body, including the rising and falling of emotions. Instead of labeling emotions as obstacles, practitioners can witness their vibrational nature, recognizing them as surges of energy that arise out of and subside back into pure consciousness. The text also encourages integration into daily life. Ordinary activities can be occasions for Spanda awareness if one maintains attentiveness to the vibratory dimension of existence. Whether walking, eating, conversing, or working, each gesture can be seen as a ripple in the ocean of consciousness. Comparative observations, Advaita Vedānta, Tantra, and other systems. A comparison with Advaita Vedānta is particularly instructive. Although both traditions espouse non-dualism, Advaita Vedānta often reaches its conclusions via the neti-neti method, discarding all attributes until only Brahman remains. It typically sees the manifest universe as a superimposition, Maya, lacking ultimate reality. Kashmir Shaivism, especially through Spanda Karika, takes a more affirmative route, celebrating manifestation as the creative pulsation of the Supreme. Buddhist Vajrayana shares certain tantric methodologies, emphasizing mantras, visualizations, and a non-dual perspective. However, the Shaiva tradition differs in its theology of a personal divine, Shiva, who is simultaneously the transcendent and immanent reality. In contemporary times, some people draw parallels between Spanda and ideas in Western esotericism or quantum physics, though one should carefully note that Spanda refers to a spiritual vibration of consciousness, not merely a subatomic wave phenomenon. Legacy, influence, and contemporary relevance. Spanda Karika, like other seminal Kashmir Shaiva texts, experienced a renaissance in the past century. Figures such as Swami Lakshman Ju, 1907-1991, helped preserve the oral teachings and made them accessible to modern seekers. Scholars like Jaideva Singh and Mark Ditchkowski provided translations and commentaries that bridged academic and spiritual perspectives. This revival took place against the backdrop of a global surge of interest in yoga, meditation, and indigenous knowledge systems. Today, Spanda Karika remains especially relevant in meditative communities, offering a framework for deepening self-inquiry and experiential insight. Its emphasis on seeing the cosmos as the play of vibrating consciousness can align well with modern scientific explorations into the nature of reality, though one should not conflate or reduce Spanda to scientific theory. In a world grappling with fragmentation and stress, the notion that all life pulses with a unifying consciousness can be profoundly healing and integrative. One ongoing challenge is interpreting the text outside its traditional Indian context. While many find immediate resonance in the idea of universal vibration, it's essential to remain grounded in the tantric worldview that underlies the text. Authentic practitioners strike a balance between adapting teachings to new cultural contexts and preserving the depth and lineage-based wisdom that infuses Spanda Karika. Conclusion and final reflections. Having journeyed through the history, philosophy, commentarial tradition, and contemplative methods of Spanda Karika, we can appreciate why it is regarded as a jewel of Kashmir Shaivism. Its central message is that consciousness is not inert, but vibrantly alive, continuously pulsing with creative potency. This pulsation, Spanda, is simultaneously cosmic and intimate. It is the heartbeat of the universe and the subtle throb that each of us can feel when we become still enough to listen. From a spiritual perspective, realizing Spanda means recognizing one's identity with Shiva. This recognition dissolves the cramped sense of individuality and reveals the interpenetrating unity of all things. It also carries ethical implications. If all is the dance of one consciousness, then harming others or nature is, in a sense, an act against one's own being. Such an insight can inspire compassion, reverence, and a desire to foster harmony in the world. An important refrain in Kashmir Shaivism is that liberation, moksha, is not the acquisition of something new. It is the unveiling of what has always been present. The moment the veil of ignorance, mala, is lifted, Spanda stands revealed. This unveiling can happen at any time through everyday experiences of awe, creativity, love, and genuine stillness. The Spanda Karika offers guidelines that help us notice these openings and remain centered in the one consciousness that animates all. Moreover, the text shows how opposites, stillness and motion, transcendence and immanence, are reconciled. For centuries, philosophical debates have pitted the changeless absolute against the world of flux. The genius of the Spanda doctrine is to show that these two are not contradictory. They are polar dimensions of one reality that, in Abhinavagupta's words, rests in itself while dancing out the universe. Even though Spanda Karika is rooted in medieval Kashmir, its teachings possess a universality that transcends specific cultural and historical contexts. Anyone, regardless of background, can experiment with noticing the pulse of consciousness in their own mind and body. By following these contemplative pointers, pausing between breaths, attuning to subtle inner vibration, or reciting mantras, one can discover firsthand whether these teachings align with reality. For those inspired to explore further, a few practical suggestions might be helpful. First, establishing a daily meditation routine, even just 15 minutes of focusing on the breath and its pauses, can go a long way toward experiencing Spanda. Second, seeking a qualified teacher in the lineage of Kashmir Shaivism can offer invaluable guidance, especially on nuances of practice. Third, supplementary study of other Kashmir Shaiva texts, like the Shiva Sutras and the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, can broaden one's grasp of the tradition. Finally, the greatest teacher is life itself. Noticing Spanda in everyday movements, thoughts, and interactions makes each moment a lesson in non-dual awareness. In an era marked by ever-increasing stimuli and existential anxieties, the teaching that consciousness is one, ever-present vibratory field can be profoundly reassuring. Rather than urging retreat from the world, Spanda Karika invites us to see through the surface of worldly phenomena to the luminous heart pulsing beneath. This perspective affirms both our personal uniqueness and our fundamental connectedness with all life. A final prayer or invocation inspired by the text might read, "May we recognize the living throb of consciousness in our breath, in our thoughts, and in all forms of creation. May every movement we make be an expression of that sacred pulse, uniting us with the boundless heart of Shiva." Such words remind us that the ultimate aim of studying Spanda Karika is not intellectual mastery, but heartfelt recognition. May this extended exploration guide each listener toward the direct experience of Spanda, the universe's sublime heartbeat, and may it illuminate the path to self-discovery that is open to all who sincerely seek it.